Hello and welcome to the Sonic Cinema Podcast. My name is Brian Scuttle. Thank you for joining me at www.sonic-cinema.com, as well as the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel. You can check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts at Apple, Google, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere you decide to listen to podcasts. Just subscribe, rate, and review, and you will get updates on all of the podcast goodness. You can also check us out at patreon.com/Sonic Cinema. There you will find series like Leaving the Collection and Life Soundtrack, as well as early access reviews and more from film festivals and Dragon Con. It's at patreon.com/Sonic Cinema. So we normally save our Academy Award talk for the week of the Oscars, but this year we're going to be changing it up a little bit. My guest from the past 2 years of Oscar episodes, Amanda Spears, was interested in talking about some awards earlier in the year, and I thought this year would be a good year to talk about kind of where we are in the awards season, and in particular things like film festivals, hype in terms of summer releases, early year releases, stuff like that. I thought that would be a good idea. Thought this would be a good year to get her insights on that. And I'd like to welcome back to the podcast Amanda Spears. Thank you very much for joining me again.
Thank you for having me. But I have a very serious question for you, Brian.
Okay.
Ed Sheeran or Weird Al for Best Song at the Emmys?
I mean, so, okay.
That's a crazy lineup. Come on.
That is an insane lineup. And I'll be honest if it's, I'll be honest. I'm not well versed on the Emmys and what's nominated. My TV watching is lacking. I'll say that.
I know, but come on, that's got to be a fun one to just keep your eye on whenever the Emmys are.
I mean, Weird Al would be an amazing Emmy choice. I'm not gonna lie.
That would be an amazing. Yeah, I would be shocked, but you know.
Yeah. But we are here once again to talk about the Oscars.
I know. I'm just trying to lighten it up a little bit for you.
You know what? I mean, that is an excellent
that could not happen
at
the Oscars. The Oscars are so stuffy. They would never nominate Weird Al for Best Song. So good for the Emmys for giving us something crazy.
Yeah. So we are. So as you're listening to this, we're starting to see the major film festivals of the fall and late summer, early fall take place. And as such, at least in my opinion, the Oscar season officially begins. I know several people, for a lot of people, the Oscars are year round in terms of, what's going to get nominated, what is a possibility. And, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about here is if you were to kind of boil down what we've seen in the past 8 months of the year in terms of Oscar potential, just in terms of theatrical releases so far, what would you say? How would you view some of the bigger titles that we have seen come out this year?
Well, it's been unusual because we have two very strong frontrunners, two very strong films, very different. Obviously, I'm talking about Barbenheimer, Barbie and Oppenheimer. To have two movies this far that come out this early and go, this film's going to get this nominations, this film's going to get these nominations. I mean, they're both, 6 is very narrow, but I think you can at least say we know, at least, unless we really see something shocking, there's two people who we know are probably, as long as they stay in supporting, going to be nominated for supporting actor. And that's Ryan Gosling And anyone who's like, he's not going to get nominated. Well, Robert Downey Jr. got nominated for Tropic Thunder. So yes, they will do that. So, and I think the theme of the season, at least it seems to be, is it their turn?
Yeah.
And how does that narrative play into it? So if the narrative comes, well, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s turn, he's going to run away with supporting actor.
Yeah.
We're going to see the same thing in director, where we're seeing, not to get too far ahead, we're going to see Christopher Nolan. Is it his turn? Or is it Ridley Scott's turn? Or is this the turn we're going to finally see where they give, Martin Scorsese a second Oscar? Is it going to be David Fincher's turn? I mean, this is all with a big asterisk over it, but that is what we're looking at, is whose turn is it to win?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is there a film that is not on our radar that could come out of the blue like Coda?
Right. And that's one of the things that I am always kind of fascinated by, even if I'm not quite the Oscar watcher throughout the year. I'll be honest, I try not to necessarily think about the Oscars until, it's time for me to consider voting for Georgia Film Critics Association.
Well, I don't usually think about the Oscars this time of year because I'm too busy on the Emmys, because as you know, I'm an awards expert. So right now I usually be writing about how Tim Burton finally got his first major directing nomination.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, Oscars, the Emmys beat you to nominating him for director. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, usually I would have been like, okay, yeah, there's one film maybe, if we're lucky, that comes out in the summer like this.
Yeah.
But to have two on the same weekend and to have a good chance at, very conservatively, 5 to 6 nominations. And as much as I love Barbie, the one thing I will say about Barbie is it doesn't have a female editor. It doesn't have a female cinematographer. There's not a lot of women in key positions behind that I would have liked to have seen for a female empowered film. That's my one nitpick, but damn, that editor from Oppenheimer deserves to be the front runner.
Yeah.
She found a way to make a 3-hour film paced to keep you engaged. It can be done.
I was absolutely awestruck by the editing and the pacing in Oppenheimer. I mean,
well, we know it's probably going to win visual effects. I mean, let's be real. Christopher Nolan films win visual effects,
right?
So,
well, and
it's probably the sound front runner.
And we should go ahead and preface that by saying the reason I think it's probably the front runner now for visual effects is that Dune Part 2 has been ridiculously pushed back by
even
Warner
before
Brothers.
that. I would say just with Christopher Nolan films, and again, I speak as an awards expert, even when his films are not nominated for Best Picture, this is the team that keeps winning visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even with Dune, assuming it would have gotten a Best Picture nomination, which is a big if, it would never have taken down the classy effects of creating an atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm. That is an excellent point, and that actually kind of leads me to something because of the fact that, I mean, I do think for a lot of people, the elephant in the room in terms of this award season is going to be the lack of Dune, and I find myself...
I don't agree. I don't think it's... I'm one of those people that with sequels, look how Black Panther performed. It didn't win as many Oscars as Dune, but it was close. And I just don't think it would have... It might have been able to, like Avatar, and get some nominations, but I don't think it was going to be... It would be the big heavy player people were thinking.
That's interesting.
If it was, they might have kept it, because that's a Warner Brothers HBO project. So they might feel like with Barbie they have enough.
That's
so
interesting.
It might be more strategic than you're thinking, where it's like, if we postpone Dune and we blame the strike, we can spend all of our money on Barbie.
Yeah.
And maybe like one of their independent films that, they all have nowadays. So I don't know. And again, we haven't seen the movie. The movie might suck.
Right. Right.
There's usually one of these that's in here and you're like, yeah, one of these movies is going to be horrible.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting take. And honestly, it's kind of a refreshing take, I'll be honest, because of the fact that I am somebody who I respected Dune more than I loved it. I respected the craft behind it. I respected the ambition of it more than I liked it. And I was always, and I was always fascinated by the fact that people thought that the sequel would be this big smash for the fall, but if you look at the numbers, now, I mean, granted, it's a different time first in terms of COVID, in terms of the release strategy for Warner Brothers. If you look at the numbers for Dune Part 1, they're really not overly impressive for a movie of that scope.
Well, I mean, COVID is, you've got to take a big grain of salt with COVID because you never know how many people are actually watching someone's television.
Right.
So, but it wasn't my cup of tea. I'm not saying that to disparage people who love it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But I'm always a little hesitant with sequels because The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight, that was a sequel. You just never know. It's very sci-fi. It's got a lot of, potential dings against it where you're like, really? Maybe Warner Brothers just figured this way they didn't have to really shell out too much.
Right.
Maybe it is more popcorn fare. We don't know.
And
I mean, no one's thinking the Hunger Games film is going to get like a dozen nominations, but it's coming out in November.
Yeah.
Movies come out in November that are populist just because movies come out in November.
Right.
It's timing doesn't always mean Oscar.
And I'll be honest, I am, like I said, I am refreshed to hear you say that. And, maybe part of Warner Brothers' strategy is also we will release it in March. It'll be one of the early big releases, and we'll see what we have then.
Or maybe they know something we don't know.
This is true.
They might have seen it and gone, oh, no. But if they know it's not great, I'm just saying if it's not great and, there's nothing coming out, March might be a great time to
Yeah.
Get people to go see a movie because there's nothing else going on.
Right. So we are talking about sequels and sequels possibilities. Another film that has been released this year was one of the biggest hits of the summer and will have a very good chance of at least repeating its predecessor's success in at least the main category it had success in, Best Animated Feature, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And I was just curious. I mean, we know that there have been several sequels over the years where they're following up an Oscar-nominated, Oscar-winning predecessor. You're talking about Godfather 2. You're talking about The Lord of the Rings. You're talking about Avatar: Way of Water. What I've seen a lot of people consider Across the Spider-Verse as a possible Best Picture nomination, but I'm kind of curious. Can you think of any sequels?
It's not going to happen. It's not. Yeah, it's not going to happen. No. Everybody just needs to get that out of their heads. It's not. Mm-hmm. It's going to be long forgotten by then. I mean, I hate to be the killer, but it's just. It's not on their radar. They don't care about that kind of stuff. It's just not going to happen with that film. And there are so many other choices.
Are you thinking specifically in Best Picture, or are you talking about Best Animated Feature as well?
Yeah, it's not going to happen in Best Feature. It's Best Picture. So, I mean, an animated movie, possibly. We're going to have to see what happens because you just don't know how many nominees there's going to be. We don't know if they're going to hold some of these animated films. But yeah, I mean, animated film, sure. I don't think it's a Toy Story 3 where if it was the first Toy Story, it would have won Best Picture. You know, like if Toy Story 3 was the first Toy Story, we would have had an animated film win. We're getting closer to that, but not a sequel. Not a sequel.
Yeah.
It's going to be an original, probably Disney product.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
There's too many Spider-Mans too. I'm sorry. I'm like, I can't keep track of them. He is the least interesting of superheroes, and I am somebody who watched the Flash movie just to see Michael Keaton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And got a little bored waiting for him. Like, when does he show up, and can I fast forward?
Yeah. You and I kind of definitely agree with on the Flash. I personally love Spider-Man. I think we've had good things about each iteration about it, and I will admit, I think the Spider-Verse movies are some of my favorite iterations of the Spider-Man narrative.
There's just been too many for me. I'm not that interested in that kind of I don't know. I guess I get it. Everybody wants to play Spider-Man.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about Barbie. We've talked about Oppenheimer a little bit. I do agree with you on the Best Supporting Actor. I do think it could very well come down to Gosling versus Downey Jr. And like,
I know De Niro is in the mix, but De Niro couldn't get nominated for The Irishman. So right now for me, I kind of have to put Downey Jr. on I think it would be his third nomination as the one to beat right now. And it would be, he's a very charming person. He's made everybody a shit ton of money. In all those Marvel films, but it's hard because De Niro hasn't gotten in, and Gosling, oh my God. I mean, every choice he made, where was that singing when you were in La La Land? He was so much better a singer dancer in this. Not to give away the movie, but I mean, that cannot all just be on the page. No offense to Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
This is one of those genius comedic performances that is so deserving of the nomination.
Right.
And this will solve their popular problem. And I think the Academy is smart enough to know that. Now, can Margot Robbie get in? It's going to be a longer road to get there for her.
Yeah.
But him in supporting, oh yeah. Like, put him in the top 5. He's in.
What?
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And they're so different. I love that they're so different. They're not both serious films, obviously. But Robert Downey Jr. gets to play a Shakespearean villain.
Yeah.
In this, so he gets to grandstand but gets kind of sucker punched. It's so impressive what both of these two have done. And it's going to be so great. It's going to be a really fun race with both of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, ooh. I was shocked at how. I mean, for a movie that's about female empowerment. And everybody comes running out talking about Ryan Gosling. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, he's so good. I will tell you now, because I am a SAG Awards expert, that's your SAG Award front runner for ensemble.
Yeah.
And it's the TV. It's got Rhea Perlman. It's got America Ferrera. It's got some movie stars, child stars. Yeah, there is your early front runner for Best SAG Ensemble. But Oppenheimer could do something that's, we'll talk about it. Spielberg has never won A Spielberg film has never won. So Oppenheimer could be a good choice. I feel a little bad about Emily Blunt because I feel like she's chasing it now, her first Oscar nomination, and the sullen, worn upon wife of a genius is, usually a good way to go.
Yeah.
I think she's going to need a lot of help. I don't know. What do you think? I'm sorry.
I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. Because, I mean, it's not, I think
she doesn't have enough to do.
Yeah. I would agree with that. She's not
Jennifer Connelly. She doesn't have enough to do for me.
She's more reacting to the word. She's more reacting to, her character's more reacting to her husband. I mean, she has that one moment near the end where she's basically, telling him it's like you want people to feel sorry for you because of these things you've done. And that is, that feels like a very natural Oscar moment. But throughout the rest of the movie, it's just, and it's not necessarily, and it's not her fault. It's an issue with the screenplay where
it's not a big role to begin with, but it is. I mean, I get why she would choose this. I mean, Alicia Vikander, it worked for her. It worked for Jennifer Connelly. It's worked for a lot of people just even getting a nomination, which she's not been able to do. So she takes a role in this big, epic, film about, a genius, and she gets to play the wife. And she does have a lot to do. She doesn't have enough personally that I could say, yeah, she's in. She's going to need a lot of help. Like, she's going to need some other people to fall out of the mix.
Yeah.
There's a clear front runner in this category, obviously. And I mean, I don't like to call people front runners this early, but it looks as though, and I'm trying to pull up her name right now, from Killers of the Flower Moon.
Lily Gladstone?
Yeah. It looks like Lily Gladstone might be the one to beat. That is, if The Color Purple doesn't take off.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
The Color Purple, I thought The Color Purple was being delayed, but
no,
they're
keeping the Christmas release for Color Purple, which honestly makes
that's a bad idea.
Really? Why do you think so?
I just think Christmas is too late. I think Christmas is too late. They need to get this out there before Thanksgiving.
I was kind of thinking that as well when they announced
Hansen last time. That's what screwed up Hidden Figures last time. If Hidden Figures was released a month earlier, that's your Best Picture winner. So yeah, I think that's too late.
I mean, my thinking was I wasn't necessarily thinking as far as that being too late for the Oscars. I was certainly I was thinking more in terms of box office. I feel like that is the right call to keep it there, because I feel like that's a movie like Les Mis a decade ago that could just tear up the Christmas season.
Yeah, but I think that's a decade ago. They're very different films. I mean, this is slavery. It's not as a beloved musical where you're going to get all those people who've gone for year and year and year to see Les Mis. It's not 40 years old as a musical where, you could see something. But yeah, I feel like it needs word of mouth and it needs a big box office. And I think it just might be a little late, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I do think Lily Gladstone, based on the reactions outside of Cannes, you definitely see that her is the front runner for supporting actress.
Yeah. I mean, America Ferrera is going to need a lot of help, but yes, she could get nominated for Barbie. I know people are talking about that. She's a really beloved actress. I love her. I would love to see it happen. I don't know if it can.
Yeah.
But she's one of those that's playing the wait and see game. Like, is it possible? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to happen? We're going to have to play it. She's going to have to wait.
I was kind of curious. I mean, I certainly would love to see Barbie nominated for Best Picture. Do you think it is a lock you can write down in pen for a Best Picture nomination, or do you think it basically needs some Critics Awards help in order to get there?
It's going to get those. But yeah, I would say it's in. Okay. I don't see 9 other films, or let's just say 8 other films coming in that are really going to knock it out of there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So for me, I think it's in because I can't imagine the Academy as a whole ignoring that film. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Not this year.
Yeah. Greta Gerwig, do you think she has a chance for both directing and writing, or do you think it's just one or the other?
Wait and see. It's hard to say. It's a hard thing to say. I don't think she's as high. I couldn't put her like number 2. I mean, right now I would have her number 2 because I've seen both of those films.
Yeah.
But we know Martin Scorsese's in the mix. We know that Ridley Scott is in the mix. We know that Bradley Cooper's in the mix. We know Yorgos Lanthimos is back. We know Taika, help me pronounce it.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, he's in the mix. I mean, that's another film we haven't talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of people, and we haven't gotten a chance yet to edit this out because we haven't seen enough of these films.
Yeah. As I said, we are talking about we are getting into the main film festival season. We've got Venice coming up. We've got Telluride. We've got Toronto. We've got New York Film Festival, all in the next few weeks. My question regarding that is how much does buzz coming out of a film festival really benefit any eventual Oscar winners that come out of those festivals?
Well, I think you'd have to ask Steven Spielberg how that worked out for him last year. You know, he's never played the festival game. Mm-hmm. And if anything, it really made the film a thud because it was too long. Apparently whoever saw it was just high on a Spielberg film being at TIFF, at Toronto. Whereas I think a film like Next Goal Wins, that's one where I've seen the trailer and I almost think that's the one we need to be on our watch. We need to watch out for, especially if it could win. I don't know if it's in competition at Toronto. I would assume it would be Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, if that's great, and I know Michael Fassbender's got 2, he could easily become one of those, dark horses to win Best Actor. And something where if the formula is done perfectly.
Yeah.
Because it is a formulaic movie, but if they do the formula perfectly, that could be one where we're not paying enough attention to. I mean, just the way they're advertising it. Loser of Best Director at the Oscars. Loser of Best Picture. Like, yeah, we've all lost. Come cheer on these people. That could be one of those films we're not paying enough attention to. And if it could get some good buzz, like Jojo Rabbit did a couple years, it could really, really benefit. But, God, it's weird because I wonder if Killers of the Flower Moon would have won the Palme d'Or if it had been in competition. Because that was really, really big for him, for Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The film, it's going to be on Apple. Like I said, all I want is for best editing to come down between the editor of Oppenheimer and Thelma Schoonmaker, and I will be a happy person. literally all I want is for this to become a two-lady race.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might get my wish.
Yeah. I think that's a distinct possibility as well. Just based, I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, I think it's a distinct possibility. I mean, I have not seen Killers of the Flower Moon, but I mean, Scorsese.
Yeah. I mean, I've been wanting Thelma Schoonmaker to win this for a while, so she can be the winner fourth Oscar. She's Scorsese's editor.
Yeah.
So, I've been rooting against Spielberg's for the last 2 years, which I know sounds horrible. So that's my one thing I'd like to see.
Mm-hmm.
Not changing my mind, but
No, and based on Oppenheimer, I mean Oppenheimer certainly I want to see in the top two possibilities for best editing, and because of the fact that I do think it's very much Christopher Nolan's best film, and I love a lot of his films, but I think it's
his easiest film for people who don't get Christopher Nolan, because I understand why people didn't get Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Like Dunkirk, sometimes you had to Dunkirk because of the revolving timeline still, or the layered timeline.
Yeah,
it was hard to follow. This was pretty linear.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like he's just like, I'm going to go do a movie and watch me get my Oscar finally.
Yeah,
no. I could argue that case a little bit with Dunkirk, but this one, I feel like this is his movie. He's got his guy, and I say that with love for Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
I feel the same way when I watch the Emmys, when finally for he's already won, but if you've ever seen Evan Peters, or you've probably heard of the American Horror Story
mm-hmm.
franchise, he's been in all of Ryan Murphy's projects, and he's like the one guy who never gets nominated. So finally, Ryan Murphy gives him this Dahmer serial killer, and it's not the same comparison as quality, but still, it's like finally the guy who you've had hanging around for all these years is getting his due in one of your projects. So I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think good for him. Cillian Murphy is at least probably a safe bet for a nomination.
Are there any smaller movies that we've seen this year that you think are, if not locks, at least very good possibilities to be recognized by the Academy?
Not yet. And I say that because Netflix and Apple are getting more strategic about when they're releasing films. This time last year, we had seen Hustlers, which was, of course, the Adam Sandler movie.
Hustle.
But, Hustle, sorry. I'm getting all my movies confused. But some of these films, I do worry a little about. I worry Napoleon is just Ridley Scott trying to redo Gladiator. Because that was his closest he ever got to winning an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
The trailer for that one worries me the most, if I'm judging anything on a two minutes. Mostly because of the, I don't know if Joaquin Phoenix has the gravitas to play Napoleon. He just seems like this guy dressed up. But I might be wrong. I might be like, oh my God, Joaquin Phoenix. But it doesn't, the whole thing just reeks of, I want my Oscar.
Yeah.
Whereas at least when you can say with The Martian, he wasn't chasing it.
Yeah.
He's always been the hired help. He doesn't have a passion project, Ridley Scott. That's probably what's hurt him in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting up there in age. But, Vanessa Kirby, she seems a little young to play Josephine. I don't know, considering she's older. Josephine was older than Napoleon. there's a lot of things historically that kind of worry me about this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry if I'm rambling.
No,
it just feels a
fine.
little. It feels a little like with that one. If you wanted my guess on which ones probably could fall by the wayside, y'all remember Alexander?
I try not to, but okay.
Yeah.
Except for the score. I love the Vangelis score,
Yeah.
but yeah, I try not to otherwise.
Another film I'm a little worried could get lost in the mix, regardless of how good it is Pain Hustlers. Like, I don't know why Netflix acquired that in the first place. It's another movie about people selling pharmaceuticals, and I'm guessing some of these are the addictive types.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we've had Dope Sick, where we saw Michael Keaton and, Will Poulter, who played the drug rep. We just had Painkillers. I think that film might just get, and overlooked, and it might be a shame because it's by J.D. Plass, it's got Chris Evans and Emily Blunt and Andy Garcia, but it just might be too much. It just might be way, way too much as far as the same kind of topic. I mean, if you have to pick one of the three, I would say go with Dope Sick right now because I haven't seen Painkillers, Pain Hustlers. They're all the same.
Yeah. The
Netflix limited series is not anywhere near as good as the Hulu one.
Right.
And now Netflix is really going to make sure that they care about drug addiction because now they've got another movie.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch 10 hours about drugs on Netflix, there's plenty to,
I mean, we haven't seen it yet, but so I mean, obviously we can't necessarily speak as to the quality of it, but what do you think about Dumb Money?
It sounds like we just had too many of these films about how people got rich off of, I've seen one on Beanie Babies, Tetris, Cheetos. That's another one that I think, it could just be like, yeah, sure, You want to do that? Okay. Like, we get it. Dumb Money. Woo! I mean, Pete Davidson is not going to drive the people to, think.
Yeah.
Think, but, I'm trying to think, quality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I am interested in Quiz Lady. That one was acquired by Hulu. Got Awkwafina and Sandra Oh. Remember, Sandra Oh was the only cast member of Sideways not to be nominated, and then her husband won an Oscar and divorced her, so she's definitely owed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see so much overlap between TV and film now. It's interesting, but I don't know if Dumb Money is going to really stand out enough from the crowd when we've. There's all these films on TV about, and in the theaters about, how people made it rich off of all these other things.
Yeah.
I mean, a few years ago, I would tell you Zach Galifianakis would get a Golden Globe comedy nomination because he's really great in that Beanie Baby movie.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no way in hell that's going to happen now.
Yeah.
And he is unrecognizable. But I just worry that it could just get lost in the mix. And that's also one of those that's like, until I see some reviews, it sounds like that could be this year's womp womp.
Mm-hmm.
But there's usually like one big 20 million womp womp. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah. What do you think? Because, we're talking about these movies about like people who get rich with ideas, the big product ideas that were... the big product movies that seems to be the big trend. I was thinking about Glenn Howerton in Blackberry, which I know there was a lot of buzz over. I mean, I don't think he's going to necessarily get the win over Downey Jr. or Gosling, But how do you feel about his possibility of being a nominee?
I think he's going to get lost in the mix. I think it really, again, it's just there's too many of those films for any performance to stand out enough to be recognized.
Yeah.
There's just too many of them. It's kind of the same thing as how I feel about the Pain film. Yeah. It might be amazing, but is it going to be any better than what I've seen Michael Keaton do?
Right.
I mean, if they had boiled, I don't know if you saw Dope Sick, but if they had boiled Dope Sick down into a 2-hour movie that was just about Michael Keaton's character, he would have his Oscar for Best Actor. Mm-hmm. I just feel like sometimes with these overlapping themes, sometimes it just gets to be too much.
Yeah.
Where people are like, no, I'm not going to watch the GameStop movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's no offense to Paul Dano or America Ferrera, but, you've got a movie with Pete Davidson in there. And it's like, mm-hmm. I mean, I might see it because I do like Nick Offerman, but yeah. I mean, I like a lot of the cast, but I'm not going to go into the theaters and see that.
Let's see. Looking at the release schedule, I'm trying to see what else we have. I'm
interested in Fingernails. What about that? I think that might be good because it's got a lot of people who've been at the top of their game recently.
Where is that on the
It's got Riz Ahmed and Jessie Buckley, both off Oscar nominations. With Carey Mulligan.
When does that come out?
October 27th, and then it's on Apple on November 3rd.
Oh, okay. All IMDb has for October 27th is Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay. I'm
got Annie Murphy and Jeremy Allen from TV. That could be a real surprise one. But then there's another one of these films from Michelle Obama about Rustin, about Bayard Rustin, the film about the March on Washington. It's and he was behind the scenes because he's gay. It's like we've had a lot of films about people in the March on Washington movement.
Yeah.
This is going to have to do something really big to stand out. And it's not saying that film might not be amazing. It's just we've seen a lot of those films recently.
Yeah.
I mean, I am interested to see Chris Rock and, if you're an EGOT watcher like I am, Audra McDonald, guess which one she's missing? The hardest one to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one I've got my eye on. And Coleman Domingo is, an interesting actor, but it's still one of those where it's like, how many more of these films can we watch?
Right.
And I'm somebody, and you and I are people who see everything. I feel the same way about The Killer a little bit, from David Fincher. It's like, how many more of these can he make?
Yeah.
I mean, at least with The Social Network and Gone Girl, those were interesting films. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it might be amazing, but it's still one of those where I'm like, I'm not as excited. In one of those films like The Killer, or I'm just going to throw Killer of the Flower Moon, and, Napoleon, something like big with big names attached to it. Oompa Loompa. One of these films always kind of falls apart. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all ready to crown Flags of Our Father Best Picture.
Yeah.
A year before the film came out, and then we all saw it, and we're like, ooh, no. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God.
And then the other film that Clint Eastwood made about Iwo Jima was the one that got nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, so. Exactly. It's just one of those. And if they allowed American films to compete in foreign language, that one would have done it. Mm. But it was just one of those things where, like, a year ahead of time, on paper, look at the Post.
Yeah.
Hell, they didn't even do anything. All they had to do was announce Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and Steven Spielberg. And you and I are definitely part of the problem. We become this echo chorus of Oscar, 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 Oscar. So it is unfortunate. But, something we're gonna see some front runners. The race will start taking place. The race will start making a little bit more sense. You know, we've got another film about cars. We got to do another Ferrari film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's another movie about a product. It's like not every product deserves its own movie.
Right.
Rhea Perlman made that very clear in Barbie. That's another movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I found an Allen doll in my mom's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to post that on Twitter. I got my mom's old Barbie case and I couldn't throw it out after she passed. And I went in there and looked at them. And I'm like, oh my God, she had an Allen doll with the original outfit. It's in good condition. I wonder if I'm not going to, but you know, just to like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I did love his line about they don't care if Allens go out into the world. All of NSYNC is an Allen. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up Ferrari because it is neon, but it's also Michael Mann, and outside the insider, we haven't, and Ali, we haven't really had much with him in terms of Oscars.
That's another one. That's the theme of this year. Is it their turn for recognition?
Yeah.
Is it Emily Blunt's turn to be nominated? Whose turn is it to win director?
Yeah.
Whose turn is it to win supporting actor? We're going to see that more, I think, this year than normal, just because of the players.
Yeah.
Is it Yorgos Lanthimos' turn?
Mm-hmm.
That's another one where
I kind of feel with him, though. I mean, he's relatively... I do kind of feel like with him, though, he's still...
But in a screenplay, he could be in the hunt. It might be his turn in a screenplay.
True, but, I mean, with him, I just don't know that there's... I don't necessarily know that I feel like there's a sense of his time for this, just because of the fact that really the only movie of his that is kind of blown down the doors as far as Oscar consideration is The Favorite.
Yeah, but he's got a lot more eyes on him now because of that. Yeah. And he's got Emma Stone.
Mm-hmm.
The same can kind of be said about Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
He made a movie with a bunch of kids, himself as Hitler, and Scarlett Johansson and Sam Rockwell. He did have Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
But now he's got Michael Fassbender doing a comedy. Well, it appears to be a comedy. Yeah. Where it could be one of those sneakers. I mean, clearly a year ago, no one thought a movie about an Asian woman traveling through different time parallels was going to, win Best Picture.
No, that is very true.
But we are in our third, fourth year. I have to kind of, when you think about it, post-COVID. So is everyone ready to feel better? How much is the election gonna affect this?
Yeah.
When the mud starts really getting slung, a feel-good film might be an easier sell.
Yeah.
Than Oppenheimer or
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wanting to see Killers of the Flower Moon, but boy, you just never know.
Yeah.
Those could be very tough. I mean, Oppenheimer's great, but I don't want to watch it in the theater again.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Whereas there's a $5 theater by my house, and if my friend wants to go see Barbie, sure, let's go see Barbie.
No,
I don't think Barbie's going to win Best Picture, but I do think Barbie is going to benefit from the economy sucks. People have died. Here we go with another nasty U.S. election cycle.
Yeah. Something
that makes you feel good or is an escape could, again, work.
Yeah.
Nomadland benefited from that journey person kind of for whatever reason, in the year of the elections, they really love journey person films. Moonlight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's either that or they go pure on comic.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, yeah, I can definitely see there being a place where Next Goal Wins ends up being a being the choice because of the fact that it does deal a lot with the underdog sports movie, which you can go all the way back to Rocky as something that really connected with that one.
And that's a great example of the film festivals putting a movie on the map.
Yeah.
LA Film put that film on the map, and it rode that all the way to the Oscars.
Yeah.
That was also an election year.
Mm-hmm.
We should mention.
Well, and it was also post Watergate. It was one of the times that really started to. It was one of those times where really that late 70s was really where people started to assert themselves that no, we want to feel better when we go to movies again. And
yeah, and we might be in that kind of a place.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, Nomadland was very much a journey person film. That's kind of ordinary person.
Yeah.
Tale of our time. But I don't think that film could win now because it's like, oh my god, how much more can we take?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. Don't sell pharmaceuticals, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, clearly,
you
can make a lot of money, but you're going to kill a lot of people. I get it. Trust me. I've seen enough TV to know that it will kill you.
Yeah. No, I think that's completely valid way of looking at that. How do you feel about the possibility of past lives in any of the categories, really? I mean, is it one where you can possibly see maybe a screenplay nomination and that's it? Or
is that the Yorgos Lanthimos?
No, Past Lives is
I'm trying to remember what past.
Celine Song movie that people have been talking about this summer. Wait a minute, let me bring it up.
I'm pulling it up right now. I'm until I've seen the film myself. Sometimes I'm. Is that a foreign language film?
I believe it is. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Because it's definitely one of the most acclaimed movies of the year.
But acclaim will only get you so far in a very busy field. It's also about buzz. I mean,
yeah.
When Parasite won, there was a lot of buzz around that film, around Bong Joon-ho, especially if you're going to pull off a upset like he did.
Yeah.
He just came off his first U.S. film. Like, if you want to trace his Oscar, you can trace it all the way back to Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, as far as a place in the world that's having its moment, South Korea is definitely there.
Yeah.
That's where we're seeing innovative television coming out of. Squid Game came out of South Korea. Parasite came out of South Korea. So it's a possibility, but it's too hard. It's too early to tell. It's just really too early to tell.
Yeah. Production values. I mean, do you think that we could be seeing basically in terms of below the line nominations? Do you think we could be seeing basically, if you're not Barbie, Oppenheimer, or Killers of the Flower Moon, just get out of the way?
Not yet.
Okay.
Because it's too early. It's too early. Can I confidently right now, if you wanted me to pick nominees, I would have to put Barbie in a lot of categories.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't, I mean, when we saw Black Panther is a great example of it. It went on to win production design and costume design, but it had to wait for months. And we don't know how close The Favorite got to catching it.
Yeah.
I mean, just because it's out now, I will say I think it's probably a stronger argument for production design, especially if you remember the sequence at the beach where they have the little, like, I had that too. I hate to date myself. The little Barbie hospital kit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, oh my God, they made, clearly they have this really fun inspiration. I mean, that's what it's about. That's the excitement of this. But it's too early because we don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, Napoleon could be a costume nominee. It's really, but yeah, I think it's definitely in the mix.
Okay. All right.
Sorry,
No, you're fine. I mean, I think one of the... I do think to a certain extent, this is part of why I don't necessarily have these conversations or really overly think about the Oscars until like December, is because of the fact that there's so much that ultimately is unknown here right now. Like, there's so many of these films that we're talking about that we just haven't seen.
And I agree, but I think with this year, and there is an exception to the rule because we do have two films right now that if they do not receive Best Picture nominations, I think I can confidently say something's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
And I think that's different than most of the time this time of the year. There might have been one, but I don't think that there's usually two very strong ones where we're expecting acting at least one or two acting nominations each, possibly a screenplay, a director, and then throw in a handful of tech categories.
Yeah.
So that's very unique compared to most times where we're like, well, maybe Top Gun will get a few nominations. Like, we all knew, maybe it gets a Best Picture. We'll see. We have to play wait and see. Well, maybe it'll get a sound nomination. It's probably going to get a sound nomination. That's kind of where we usually are. When you have two films like what we had, and it was so special that they came out and we're getting to see people enjoy them at this time of the year. That I do think it's worth having a conversation. I mean, hell, I'll just throw this in there. Jamie Lee Curtis took her, victory lap on TV this year. It's like, damn, girl, from having no awards to having an Oscar and probably on her way to an Emmy. That's that's not a bad turnaround at your age.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if that was your victory lap, the bear, brava. Damn. I mean,
and of course,
first of all, she gave an amazing.
Of course, I asked earlier, it's like, what have we ever seen? How many sequels have we really seen that got Best Picture nominations that the original movie didn't? And you just answered it with Top Gun Maverick. And but yeah,
it got about the same as it did the last time, minus a song nomination.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, hey, isn't Ed Sheeran and Weird Al competing funny? Like,
no, Ed is hilarious, and I mean, I do wish Weird well at the Emmys when they take place.
I mean, yeah, if he's a producer on the film, he'll win TV movie.
Yeah.
But that's when I saw that when I was looking through categories, because they don't, show you in the key categories the directing and writing nominees, and of course, those are important. Yeah. And so when I got to and I saw music, and I'm like, holy mother, the Oscars would never. I mean, I'd like to think they would, but the chances of them nominating Weird Al.
I mean, I feel like the possibilities are better now, but I just don't know. It would have to depend on what else is out. Because, I mean, they did actually nominate a song from the South Park movie. I mean, it didn't win, but they still nominated it.
Yes, and you know, I was holding out hope for oh God, what was it? That Andy Samberg movie, his Justin Bieber biopic.
Oh yeah, Pop Star.
Yeah, I was like, come on, just nominate them. But
Yeah.
They when they do it, it's amazing. They just don't have the biggest track record as the Emmys do of nominating song from SNL or something. So I just like, man, that and with my luck, neither of those two will win, and it'll be something else. But still, it's just kind of like it's fun and especially this year, I think, when you've seen where we had such a high of two great films coming out and neither of them disappointed.
Yeah,
it's fun to have a mid-season chat.
It is.
I just hope they settle the writers' strike. Yeah. We just need to get them to settle these strikes now, and we can all get back to watching the shows we love and the films we love. And
no, I
don't need extra time.
With that.
For me, I don't need extra time to contemplate my Emmy predictions. I'm just like, oh no. Like, imagine having 3 more months, folks, to figure out. Yeah, because it just allows me to run more scenarios of what could happen.
Mm-hmm. So we were talking about song there. So the question somebody brought up on Twitter, and I'm kind of curious your thoughts. Of the 2 songs from Barbie that most people are talking about, which one do you think has the better shot at winning the Oscar? I'm Just Ken or the Billie Eilish one?
Which is the Billie Eilish one?
What's the name of it?
It's not the Dua Lipa song. I thought the big dance number.
No.
I think I'm Just Ken is probably the most memorable one.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like a Weird Al choice. I'm not going to lie. I mean, if they went with the Dua Lipa kind of dance the night away kind of song.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, good for Maxbox 20 for being the butt of the joke with the Push song.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
What was I Made For was the Billie Eilish. And that was more the ballad. That was
God, they kind of blend together. I think I'm Just Ken is just more memorable of a moment in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
They might just go with the Dua Lipa number. You never know, because they do like pop stars. So. Yeah. But I'm Just Ken. I was just like, oh my God, where was he? He really could dance. I don't remember him being that great of a singer. Yeah. Wasn't he supposed to be in like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys? I mean, I know he was in like, the Disney clubs. So Ryan Gosling, he was a Mouseketeer.
Yeah, he was.
Wasn't he like going to be the 6th member of NSYNC? I feel like that NSYNC joke was put in there for his benefit.
Entirely possible. I'll be honest. I'm not aware.
Okay, well, you're not the fan base for NSYNC, so
I am not. But I did have one more film that we really have not talked about, and that is Maestro, Bradley Cooper's biopic on Leonard Bernstein. That is another case where I think you're seriously...
That's already looking like it could be a big problem.
Yeah. And it's real... I mean,
what the fuck was he thinking with that nose?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it's like...
I think that was in bad taste.
Yeah. I mean, even though the families come out,
he's chasing it at this point.
But yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I am curious to see
I think
the
it's too.
Like,
they went a little too far. Yeah. Is it another black and white film? I mean, I'm sorry. I like how they did black and white in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
When it was black and white and color in some part. It's like, it's not, it doesn't make your movie any better to be in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, To me, he's really racked up a lot of nominations. I liked him in Guillermo del Toro's film
Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, he was really good in Nightmare Alley. I thought that was closer to a winning performance, but I think he's taking himself a little too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what was great about him in American Hustle was he was willing to be the asshole who was wrong. Like big, bombastic. If, Jared Leto wasn't in the race that year, there's your winner, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's just now, it seems like he's taking himself so seriously. He wouldn't do that now. He wouldn't do an American Hustle kind of role. Whereas, like, clearly Ryan Gosling's like, I'm going to go have fun, and I am just going to chew every ounce of scenery imaginable.
Yeah.
Let people question why I'm in this film, and then then I'm going to have the last laugh.
Yeah.
Like he's and even, look at what Robert Downey Jr. did with Tropic Thunder.
Mm.
He knew that could go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Horribly wrong. And he needed everyone to see the film and get it immediately, what he was doing and who he was targeting. And Bradley Cooper is way too careful now, to the point where I don't know if he can give that kind of free performance. Because now he's going to play another musician. It's like, we get it. It didn't work the first time. So let's jumble in a pot everything that usually works to win people an award.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to work for him.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel the same way about Michael Shannon at the Emmys. It's like, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing a country music, just pull out things it's like you could put on a piece of paper sometimes what wins people awards and pull 3 or 4 of those things out and find a real life person to play. That doesn't mean you're going to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
Like, just because it worked for Rami Malek does not mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah. I mean,
here we go again.
Honestly, many people, myself included, would certainly argue that shouldn't have happened for Rami Malek. It just happened to, I
think Rami Malek got lucky with the timing.
Yeah.
He got lucky with the timing. He got lucky with his competition. And he got lucky that Bradley Cooper wanted director more than he wanted an Oscar in general.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, you are a better actor still at this point than you are director.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Affleck is not a great actor. He's an okay actor. He can do one thing very well, but he's a better director.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just, that is the one film that we didn't talk a lot about, but I think that might be this year's kind of thud.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Netflix's their ambitions for an Oscar end up going. And I mean, obviously,
Netflix and Apple.
I
was going to say Netflix and Apple typically have, if you look at Coda, they had Coda, and then they also had The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Yeah.
They could have, but Coda was their baby. Coda was the one that they were pushing. And then they wanted to, center a campaign around Denzel Washington getting another Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
And if anything else happens, fine. I feel like that, and Netflix, it's going to be interesting to see if Netflix finally wises up, because they kind of tend to spray all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that have mixed results. I mean, Roma was definitely their baby, but they also went way too far in their campaign for Roma. They probably shot themselves in the foot with that one a little bit too, where it's like, it's not enough that you're trying to win Best Picture in a foreign language film. You're also trying to do it on a streamer for the first time. And now you're going to run the most expensive Oscar campaign and up your prices for your subscription. It's like, yeah, you just pissed everybody off. I would ultimately say the fact that it did not receive a single SAG Award nomination is what might have been its last nail in its coffin. But
yeah,
Yeah, but still, like they have to be very smart and strategic. They did very. I mean, they've only won one acting award. They've never won. And again, I'm not trying to get everything to go back to best song, but it is a very good example. And you and I talked about this year, whereas Netflix should have won best song by now.
Yeah.
If they were smart, they could have gotten Mary J. Blige that Oscar on a. You're not going to vote for a supporting actress. Why not just give her best song?
Yeah.
That song from the animated film that year was not so far ahead that they couldn't have done so.
Right.
Another good example is the Diane Warren song. If they had just ran a campaign, they had 3 of the nominees. Did they pick the song from the Trial of the Chicago 7 from the Best Picture nominee to push? No. That might have been smart. Do they push the song from the woman who's been nominated 12, 13 times by that point and never won and run a campaign around giving Diane Warren an Oscar? No. They go with the Eurovision song, which is a beautiful song.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful song. But they picked the wrong song. They always pick wrong. That's their problem. If they had gone with Diane Warren or if they'd gone with Mary J. Blige, they'd have that song. It doesn't sound like a lot. I get it's a song category, but it does illustrate their problem where they can't focus their attention on one film or one person per category.
Yeah.
I mean, if they weren't going to do that in general, especially the year when they had 3, they should have just let it play out. But they went with the Eurovision song, maybe because they thought Will Ferrell was going to campaign for it. But I don't think that's really going to be a big additive for that.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm not trying to relate everything back to best song because I just it wasn't my intention. It's just one of those things that illustrates Netflix's problem compared to Apple, which is we love you, Coen brothers, and Joel Coen in particular. Yeah. And Denzel Washington, but Coda's our baby. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and honestly, I mean, in terms of the Oscars, best original song is something that the way the music categories always play out. I'm always fascinated by that. And earlier this year, I was actually writing about over in their own league. I was writing about the female composers who have won Oscars for score. And one of the things that really occurred to me, because two of those wins took place in that 4-year span where the original score category was split. And of those 8 Oscars that were given for score, 5 of them went to Miramax. And to your point, that is an excellent example of what Netflix has not done when it comes to song.
Netflix has had a problem running a successful Emmy campaign for anyone other than Laura Dern.
Yeah.
Because I love Laura Dern. She earned her Emmy in Big Little Lies. Work it, girl. But in Marriage Story, I was kind of a little surprised that this was it.
Yeah.
She's been better, I think it's fair. But I don't even know if you can give Netflix a lot of benefit buzz for that, because she was almost the Academy president. So we know she's popular.
Yeah.
But still, they've had trouble in the past executing a campaign for one film.
Yeah.
And I will give them a little leeway with Roma because of the fact that it was a foreign language film.
Mm-hmm.
And it is always hard to be the first to do so. I mean, look what Parasite needed to be the first.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. So is there anything...
Netflix has had troubles with Emmy campaigns. They've had trouble. If you look at their success as a streamer, Hulu was the first to win to win a series award, to win a big award. They won Best Drama Series. Amazon's the first series. Amazon wins comedy series. around that same time, Amazon first big streaming award streamer to win a, Manchester by the Sea to win some kind of an Oscar.
Yeah.
Not documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get in, then, it took Netflix like an extra 5 years for it to win a big Emmy category. Granted, it did 2 in one night. It won limited series and it won, for the crown.
Yeah.
But it's taken them a lot longer. And look how easy it was for Hulu to come out of the bat, Amazon to come out of the bat. Look at the success of Apple. Apple TV in its first 5 years has won 2 series awards already for Ted Lasso and Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone would tell you that's pretty successful.
Yeah.
So as a whole, Netflix has an awards problem. I was sitting there because I know The Crown and the Queen's Gambit year was around the Roma year.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there praying. I'm like, please, God, just win one of these two. I don't want to write my Netflix has an awards problem. Because I get fried by the end of Emmy season. Then I take 3 months off and start Oscars. So, usually. Right. So for me, I'm just sitting there like, please, God, just let the Queen's Gambit win something. Win series. Thank God it did, because otherwise I would have been up all night. But you know how it is with those things. Yeah. Sometimes you just want something to win so you don't have to do more work. But still, Netflix as a whole, and I'm not trying to get off tangent, and I know you're not a big TV person, but Netflix as a whole has an awards problem, especially in those top categories. It's great at winning, some of the tech ones. Yeah. But it's had a lot of trouble winning, acting awards. So they really need to get their act together better. Yeah. They need to be more focused on what they're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they'll learn. We'll see. But I think Maestro might be their big film, and if it is, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's going to depend. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend. I think on where it stands with critics in terms of not only the performance, but it's not only the performances, but obviously the filmmaking. I think so much of what Stars Born was able to benefit from Lady Gaga delivering the performance she did, and the idea of getting her an Oscar nomination and Oscar for writing, but with Maestro, it's like you never know because of the fact that classical composers. I mean, this very much does not feel like Amadeus, and it feels in a way it kind of feels a little bit more like what happened to Immortal Beloved, which is nothing. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, he is an interesting subject for a film. Yeah, I will give him that. But we've seen a lot of musician films, and it just gets to the point where it's like, even if he's a classical conductor, kind of like we just had Cate Blanchett do this. Yes, they're going to be very different films. One's a real life person, but now it's like, here we go. At a certain point, it's like, pick someone different. There are other people out there in the world who have done, interesting things that would make a good film. Right. So, I mean, we'll see. But it might be amazing. It might be great. Mm-hmm. But it's the one with Napoleon that I'm the most concerned with before seeing them based on just their trailers. Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see. But I think sometimes you have to look at the overlap with some of these as far as like subject matter. We've just seen some things just get repeated too much. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Ridley Scott win an Oscar. I would love to see Christopher Nolan win an Oscar. One thing I I know people don't like to hear is part of what makes winning so special is someone like Ridley Scott who hasn't won yet.
Yeah.
It's always those people who have all those nominations. And, you know, Peter O'Toole's a great example of that. Never won.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so special, that someone on their first nomination or in their first big film could win. I mean, Lily Gladstone has a very big chance of making history at the Oscars. If she wins, she would be the first Native American actress to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, a Native American has not been nominated since Kevin Costner's, oh God, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Dances with
Help
Wolves.
me out. Dances with Wolves, yeah. See, I never know where I'm going to go, and then I end up with these things, and I can't remember names. And so it would be a big moment for the first American community if that film were to work out. And luckily, I try to not get my expectations too high, because I am rooting for it. Yeah. Whether that's objectively good or bad. Graham Greene. Mm-hmm. He probably was the last Native American actor or actress to be nominated for an acting award.
Yeah.
I don't like to look up too many of those facts on my phone, because I just don't want people to ever see my search history and go, what is she up to? But it's worth pointing out that, you know, she does have everybody rooting for her.
Yeah.
And it's not just because the woke community, a woke attitude towards this. It is because it looks like it's going to be an intense film. And you never see Leonardo DiCaprio with real women. They're always like Margot Robbie's.
Yeah.
You know, as Helen Mirren said, don't cast Margot Robbie as Barbie if you don't. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it will be, you know, I'm rooting for her. I'd like to see it work out, but I'm also the dork, you know, who's got my eye on the editing race.
Yeah.
Whatever that says about you, if it says about me.
Hey, I mean, you know, I'm somebody who cares deeply about the music categories, so I understand completely where you're coming from.
I do like all of the categories, but I'm more of a statistical nerd where I can take a lot of I only allow myself to make one hard overhead prediction per award show. And, you know, right now, the song category, what makes it so much fun at the Oscars, and almost also the costume category, is it's an even playing field. You don't get an advantage for being a Best Picture nominee. You really go into it on a level playing ground. Mm-hmm. I mean, not to. I mean, that stopped the most recent trend of let's give it to current music stars.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean next year we won't see that in full color, living color again, but it was fun to see. It is a fun category that a film that couldn't even, for various reasons we won't get into because this has been going on for a while, couldn't get nominated in the international feature, could go on and still win an Oscar.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. Well, we've covered.
Let me ask you, what performance? Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
I just wanted to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
What performance or director, who do you want to see win an award this Oscar season? Which one would make you happiest? Not practical. It doesn't have to be practical.
Right.
Who do you want to see win an Oscar, or what film are you kind of rooting for? What do you think might be your favorite film?
Man, that's a tough question, because I mean, the easy question are the two movies that we talked about, you know, at the start of this, Barbenheimer, and I adore both of those movies. I truly do. Man, I mean, I did love
It can be an
Razor God,
animated
It's Me,
film.
Margaret. I love that movie.
Okay.
I would love to see John Wick Chapter 4 get some below the line
Okay,
love.
that's not going to happen.
Oh no,
Let's be a little bit more realistic.
Yeah.
Come on.
This is kind of a tough question because I mean, obviously, I have my.
Well, what are you looking forward to? Is there something you're looking forward to seeing?
I mean,
is there a performer you'd like to see win an Oscar?
See, that's the thing. I mean, I don't, from a thinking somewhat practical as far as something that could happen, even if it may not, I really don't know if there are any that I would say, oh yeah, I definitely would love to see this happen as far as the performers, because of the fact that, I mean, I'm somebody who I very much enjoy, I very much enjoy, especially when I vote for the Georgia Film Critics Association. I'm not necessarily going off of, oh, they've got a good chance at an Oscar. I'm going off of, these are truly the performances that I love the most this year. I mean, most of those,
I think that's admirable.
Don't necessarily get the nod. I mean, so I kind of, and I'm thinking about, man, I mean,
is there someone you'd want to see win again? Who in the two-time club do you want to see win, or who do you want to see win their second or third? I'm trying to help you out with something. I'm just trying to.
I hear you. I appreciate that. Let's
like I would like to see Lily Gladstone. I'd like to see the buzz equal a great performance, but I'm also, I'm always cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. No, I think she would. I would love to see. Because I mean, I've seen a couple movies with her this year that I've really loved, and I mean, it's one of those things where I can't wait to. I mean, I can't wait to see Scorsese's movie in general. It's like, would I like to see him win a second Oscar? Yes, of course I would. Especially,
he's one I'd like to see.
Because I mean, The Departed is a very good movie, but it's not even in my top 10 when it comes to Scorsese. So I mean,
because it's an Oscar, I don't have a top 10 of his. Like, I would have to really sit down and think about that, because I don't usually do that for people. But I think if I was getting down to like 9th or 10th or 10th or 12th. The Oscar win might bump it up a little bit for me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's somebody I would like to see. I would, of course, love to see Diane Warren win if she's always in contention. If they could finally make that happen. There's there's a visual effects person we talked about who's, Marvel's go-to. I would love to see him. I think his name's Daniel Sadek. But, his last chance to actually win was probably his first chance, which was Master and Commander. Like, that tells you how far back this goes. But it is it's always fun. And I think, Michael Fassbender is somebody who takes himself so seriously that just the trailer alone gives me this small glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
That might be my best favorite movie of the year. But I'm somebody who's like, Meryl Streep hasn't done a movie in a while. I'd love to see her win, but I'm enjoying her being on TV right now. So it's
Oh, okay. I figured out one. Going to original score, Thomas Newman, I would love to see win for Elemental.
Oh yeah.
I thought his score for Elemental is one of his best scores. I absolutely adored that one. And I would hope, because of how much, even though I can't imagine it, I can't necessarily see it winning over. I don't think he'll win over Across the Spider-Verse or Miyazaki's film. If that gets in the
he might have another film. You never know. Yeah.
I would love to see Thomas Newman get recognized finally, because he's
he's somebody whose timing's never been on his side.
Yeah.
And he's never been lucky enough to go. Some of these people have just never been lucky enough to go along for the ride.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate how we've seen in recent years below the line people having very, very singular campaigns by their films.
Yeah.
Where I think you could see.
I would love to see that happen for him when it comes to Elemental. I do think that's one of his very best scores, and he's long past due. So
yeah, I agree with you on that one. I do. I think there's a few people who, if you want your film to win an Oscar, sometimes maybe you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still, with 1917, I still think of the fact that, like, I'm trying to think who was their film score. Not. God, these names get so confused.
Joker was the one who won. And it's like,
yeah,
I like that score, but man, it's not even my favorite score of theirs. I mean, it's like, it doesn't necessarily need to be, but because it rarely ever is. But
well, if 1917 had run a campaign around, let's give this person a score, their Oscar.
Yeah, I think it was banking more on Sam Mendes winning another Oscar, or Roger Deakins
they kind of
the Oscar as well. So,
and as happy as we all were, I think if they had really just been like, well, maybe we can win Thomas Newman. It was Thomas Newman, an Oscar.
Yeah.
If they had ran the campaign of Thomas Newman's never won an Oscar, vote for Thomas Newman and like they did with Roger Deakins, he'd have it.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that they needed to do for, like, Diane Warren. Because, she was one person that really broke my heart that year, because she'd never gone into the Oscars that year with a precursor win.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there thinking, please just let her have this. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes they do break your heart.
Yeah.
Because you want to see that.
But no, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'd have to say, if there's a long time person who has not won an Oscar I'd like to see win this year, it's Thomas Newman.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I know, for visual effects, that's going to be kind of hard.
Yeah.
But I would like to see, personally, more women in the sound and the visual effects category.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we talked about this last year. It wasn't last year. We talked about this a little earlier, where it's like you got 5 people and they're all men.
Yeah. That
pisses me off more than there being 5 male director nominees.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only 5. Maybe there's a duo. There's only 5 slots.
Yeah.
When there's enough room to put 20 people into one category, I feel like that's where you need to see more diversity. And hopefully we will soon. But yeah, it was Daniel Sadek. I think he's the Oscars biggest loser right now at 13 nominations. It's also really hard to feel bad for him when he is Marvel's go-to person, because he's probably the richest person in the category, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
If you're Marvel's go-to on every film that Marvel has a visual effects nomination on, he is.
Yeah.
He is in the visual effects. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to feel bad for you, dude. But I do hope he gets his one. Maybe he'll, take some time off from doing Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff, and do a more prestige film.
Yeah.
You never know, but I'm just
mm-hmm.
a lighter fare. Yes.
Right.
He's lost 13 times. But you are Marvel/Disney's go-to visual effects artist. Yeah. We'll see. But I do like that we're seeing more diversity. We're seeing older actresses win Best Actress. We're seeing younger actors winning Best Actor, the bell curves are getting a little smaller.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like we're playing To Catch a Predator when the Best Actor winner stands next to the Best Actress winner.
Yeah.
Some of these years you're like, damn, he could be her father.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry. I'm sorry to be rambling.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Unless you want my Emmy picks real quick. I'm just kidding.
No. But that being said, I do appreciate you coming back onto the show. If this was fun. I'm glad to get your insight as to where your thinking might be around this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about the Oscars and what you're thinking of the Oscars, because typically when we've talked about them, we're talking about obviously when the nominations have all happened, and we're trying to talk about what possible winners might happen. So
it's
I
fun to
did
talk about
enjoy
it
this.
in a more gray area.
Yeah, I did enjoy this as a discussion of, okay, so here's kind of where we might be looking at right now versus, what it might look like in the future. And I think that is a really strong narrative that you hit on of, the idea that this year could see
whose turn is it?
This is whose time is it? And I think that is,
yeah.
And the more I think about that, the more I think that you did hit the nail on the head as far as the theme for this year.
Thank you. I'm just going to have a stress headache between January and March because with the Emmys in January, I'm like,
yeah,
I just need to lock in my Emmy predictions and not change them. But I have more time to think about than normal. So this was fun to think about something other than like my Best Actor predictions.
Mm-hmm. So where can people find your work online?
You can find me. I should have a piece coming out soon, but I am on Twitter at Miss Amanda Spears. I did my film review of The Little Mermaid.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a film that won't be getting any Oscar nomination. Awards Radar. Yeah. That's where you can find me. Awards Radar. That was another, why did they make this film?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it feels like it feels like the case with all of those live action remakes where it's like, why?
Some of them I've liked. This one doesn't really work. You can kind of get lost in the CGI. Everybody was kind of like, it really felt like this was shot during COVID protocols, and yeah. But mostly you can find me on Twitter. Okay. Awards Radar. I haven't been writing as much as I usually have been. But
okay, well, Amanda, thank you very much for once again joining me.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank Amanda for joining me on the podcast once again. It was good to get her perspective on the Oscar season from this perspective of the award season not quite being in full swing yet, but also a lot of people are thinking about them. And that's something that is not necessarily something that I tend to think about anymore, but it's interesting to get her perspective on it. It's going to be it for this episode of the Sonic Cinema Podcast. This October is going to be horror, but coming from very different subjects, and I look forward to sharing those conversations with you. And this year, the back half of this year is going to be really interesting because of the fact that I will be starting a new job. I'm starting a new job, and getting the feel of that, and that's part of the reason why I recorded this before I even went to Dragon Con. So that's going to be it for this episode of the podcast. Check us out at patreon.com/Sonic Cinema, the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as my written work at www.sonic-cinema.com. Thank you.